What's up, y'all? Brandon with BC Talks here. Happy New Year. It is the first mail call of the new year. And since it is the first mail call of the new year, I figured I'd break out this bad boy. My mom got me this shirt made for Christmas. So shout out to my mom.
Mama, I love you.
And I also got for Christmas an eBay gift card that I used to put towards the purchase in today's mail call. It's a slab of a book that, if you've been following the channel for the past couple months or so, you can probably guess what it is. It's the first book of a series that's pretty influential to me as a comic book collector and my, comic book superhero fandom. And in addition to that, I have a Whatnot pickup as well that came in. So let's go over everything that I got in today's video. Before we get started, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel for more comic book and pop culture talk. And make sure you check out my Whatnot. I'm a verified seller on Whatnot. And if you use my link down in the description and it's your first time signing up, you'll save $10 off your first purchase. And it doesn't just have to be with me, it can be with anybody on Whatnot. So if you're into collecting comic books, Pokemon cards, baseball cards, basketball cards, coins, pretty much anything you can collect, you can find on there. It's pretty interesting. So, and you can get some really good deals depending on what sellers you're looking at. I've definitely found some great deals on comics, and I have some of them coming later in the video. But use that link down in the description if it's your first time, and you'll save $10 off your first purchase. And I've mentioned starting an eBay store the past couple of hauls, but I think I'm gonna pause on that because I really need to get my inventory together and cataloged and whatnot before I get into something that big. If you're a comic book collector, you know that your books can get way out of control and messy. So I think I need to get everything organized and together before I start that. But I am gonna try to start doing some more pop-ups once I get a little bit more organized as well. But I think I'm gonna pause on the eBay store. So for just for now, you can check out the Whatnot, and of course, make sure you're liked and subscribed. Like I said in the beginning of the video, if you've been following the channel for the past couple months or so, you might have an inkling as to what this book is. It is Crisis on Infinite Earths, number 1 in a 9-6. I'll go ahead and get it out this. Rip me out the plastic, I'm not the brand new. It's Crisis on Infinite Earths number 1 in a 9-6. I won it in an eBay auction from Buddha Crab on Christmas Day, actually. I had been following the auction, and it just so happened that I got a eBay gift card for Christmas, and the auction ended on a Christmas evening. I can't remember what time, but it was sometime Christmas evening, and it was $73 total. The bid was $60, and then there was $13 of shipping, and I used the gift card to pay for some of that. So really, I got it for I think around like 40 bucks. So it is it was a really great deal for me. It does kind of have like a scuff there, so I'd probably get it reholdered. And actually, I want to crack it open and get it cleaned and pressed, and then regraded. So I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna have it cracked open, cleaned and pressed, and regraded. And I'm not trying to do a CGC scam like what happened recently with CGC. I don't have another one of these that I'm gonna slip it out for it to get a better grade. It's not that high of a value book to do that anyway. That CGC scam is pretty crazy, by the way. I haven't talked about it on the channel. I thought about doing a short about it, but now it's like enough people are talking about it. But it is pretty crazy what happened. They released the books the other day, and that was probably the second most popular uh list that came out the other day. But yeah, that whole thing's pretty crazy. But anyway, back to Crisis on Infinite Earths. I've talked about this series on the channel a lot before, and this book in particular, this issue, is the first appearance of Ted Kord's Blue Beetle in the DC universe. Of course, DC acquired the Charlton Comics characters from some of the Charlton Comics characters from Charlton Comics, like Ted Kord's Blue Beetle, Peacemaker, Judo Master, those kind of characters. This is also the first appearance of Pariah. It is the first appearance of Alexander Luthor Jr., who has a pretty big role in the Crisis series, and then the first full appearance of the Monitor, who, of course, the Anti-Monitor has a pretty big role in this series as well. In the Monitor, if you watched the Flash show with Grant Gustin, they did a version of Crisis on Infinite Earths, so you probably know the Monitor if you watched that show. But like I said, I talked about this on the channel many times before. Crisis on Infinite Earths was like a really defining moment for DC Comics and comic books in general. Um, DC didn't have a lot of faith in the series at the time when they released it, but it came out and it was widely considered one of It was a critical and financial success, and it's widely considered one of the greatest comic books events in comic book history. And it's also considered Crisis on Infinite Earths, not this issue obviously, it's the first one, but the last issue when the crisis ends and the DC universe is all combined into one. It's considered the by many to be the delineation point between the Bronze Age and the modern age, because it effectively changed the landscape of the entire DC universe forever. And DC's been chasing that high ever since, with millions of different events, a lot of them called Crisis of something, Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis, and then of course the New 52. They've Rebirth. They've had so many different events trying to chase the high from this event, but nothing really ever has compared to Crisis on Infinite Earths in terms of its scope, the storytelling, and the impact on comic books as a whole. Um, but just to get into it a little bit, in the Crisis on Infinite Earth series, a lot of different heroes died, but the two most prominent were Kara Zor-El, the original Supergirl, who stayed dead until 2004, and then of course Barry Allen's Flash, one of the most popular Flashes. He stayed dead for 23 years until he was teased in Final Crisis in 2008, and then he officially, for real, came back the next year in 2009. And the death of Barry Allen specifically was one of the more shocking moments in comics because he had been the Flash for like 3 decades and was one of DC's most popular characters, and it seemed like he was going to stay dead forever. And, in terms of comic books, he essentially did stay dead forever, staying dead until 2009 when he died in 1986 or 7. I forget which year the issue came out. It was issue number 8. But staying dead for over 3 decades in comics is like the longest anybody has ever stayed dead, other than the Winter Soldier. He was dead for a long time. Bucky. But the and Actually, if you're interested in comic book ages and whatnot, because like I said, he was Barry Allen, his introduction in the it was showcase number 4 in 1956. That's credited as being the start of the Silver Age. So Barry Allen's been a pretty pivotal character for the comic book ages. The he's considered to be the his introduction is considered to be the start of the Silver Age, and then his death in this and the ultimate effects of Crisis are considered to be the start of the modern age. So, and if you're interested in comic book ages and how those are all delineated and whatnot, there is a YouTuber called Strange Brain Parts. If you're a comic book fan, I definitely suggest checking him out. He has a he has a video on the different comic book ages, and that goes really more into depth. It's a really great watch if you haven't watched it. I'll leave a link in the description so you can watch it, and make sure you sub to his channel. He's a really great YouTuber, especially if you're into comic book history and comic books in general. He does more like short form narration videos about different comics. He did a recent one on one of my favorite miniseries, Mr. Miracle, which I need to get a copy of that first issue. But Yeah, that series is really great. He does really great work. But anyway, the short of it is that of course you all know Jay Garrick. He was the original Flash. He was introduced in Flash Comics #1 in 1940. But after World War II, everybody knows the superhero comic genre saw a steep decline, and other comics like crime and horror and romance became much more popular. And so publishers pivoted from superheroes to crime and horror and romance, um, because superheroes weren't selling anymore. Now, the so Jay Garrick, he the Flash comics were canceled in 1951, and that was Jay Garrick's last appearance in the Golden Age, and he wouldn't appear again for I think was it 10 more years? Yeah, and then so it seemed like comic superhero comics might be dying, but like I said, but after the creation of the actually it was first the creation of the Comics Code Authority in 1954, which kind of neutered crime and horror. And then in 1956, as I said before, Showcase #4 came out, which introduced Barry Allen, and that caused a huge increase in the superhero genre. And then later in 1960, in Brave and the Bold number 28, the Justice League was formed. And then a year later, the Marvel made the Fantastic Four in 1961, sort of as a response to the popularity of the Justice League. They were like, we need our own team that's popular. So they created the Fantastic Four, and then the Fantastic Four just blew up. And so, superheroes after the Fantastic Four, superheroes were like the biggest, most popular thing. And so none of that would have happened without the introduction of Barry Allen. So I would say that Barry Allen is one of the most iconic characters in comic book history. Obviously, there's Batman and Superman, the Fantastic Four and whatnot, but Barry Allen, without Barry Allen, there would might not be no Justice League or Fantastic Four. So I consider him to be one of the more iconic characters in comic book history. So for him to die in this series was a big swing for for DC, and especially since they kept him dead for 23 years, almost 3 decades. And the what came out of this series was a lot of changes, and because they wanted to condense the history of the DC universe, and so they put everything into one Earth and gave a lot of people different new backstories. I have Wonder Woman. Where's it at here? Wonder Woman, #1 by George Perez back there. Which gave Wonder Woman a whole new reintroduction and backstory and history, and focused more on the Greek god side of things. I also have, not in Slab, but I also have the Flash #1, which was the first Flash series that came out of Crisis on Infinite Earths, and this was Wally West's Flash, because of course Barry Allen died, and so they made a new Flash, which was Wally West. I also have the Justice League series. I've talked about this before on the channel. This was the new Justice League, which had basically the B and C list characters with Batman, but Giffen and DeMatteis really did a great job with this, and this series blew up as well. It became very popular because of the writing and the stories in it. But that was a post-crisis series. Also, Batman didn't get changed very much, but he did get a deep dive into his history in Frank Miller's Batman Year One, which was post-crisis as well. So a lot of the iconic series in DC history came post-crisis, out of the Crisis on Infinite Earth series, and a lot of the way they've been portrayed in modern media is their post-crisis interpretations. Peacemaker, Blue Beetle, the Justice League, Wonder Woman, like I said, Batman, Superman, all of them, basically the way that we know them today, are their post-crisis interpretations for the most part. So that's why I'm a really big fan of Crisis on Infinite Earths, and that's why it was really I thought it was I really wanted to get #1. I also want to get #8, which is the death of Barry Allen. That's a really great cover. #8, I want to get that in a slab. And then also, what is it, #7? Yeah, #7, which is the death of Supergirl. That's a really great cover as well. I want to get those two because they're pretty important, influential deaths in comic book history. I want to get those in slab to go with my. If you've followed the channel the past couple months, I've started collecting my influential post-crisis issues, or #1s at least. So I'm probably gonna get those two as well. I'm gonna look for good deals. If you've been following the channel for a while, I'm more of a raw guy than a slab guy. But I really started getting into slabs in the past 3 months or so, but only for books that I feel are influential to my journey as a collector. And like I said, Crisis on Infinite Earths might be one of the most influential to my journey as a collector, because as a kid, it's funny, I collected Pokemon cards as a kid. I wasn't really into comics as a kid, but I also grew up watching the Batman Superman animated series, Static Shock, the Teen Titans series. So, and of course, the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited series, and all of those series, the way the characters were portrayed is based on their post-crisis interpretations. So that is how I came to become a fan of those characters, was their post-crisis interpretation. So that's one of the reasons why I am interested in collecting post-crisis and Crisis on Infinite Earths related comic book issues. So I'm definitely going to be looking for those, and I actually have one coming in the next couple weeks, and of course there will be more going on. I think for slabs, I'm only going to collect those sort of issues that are influential from from the Crisis series. And I don't really care about 9.8s necessarily. I just want to have the issue. As long as it's higher than a 9, I don't really care about the grade so much. Um, but like I said, considering the grade, I'm probably going to crack that open, get it pressed and clean, and then re-slab it at some point, because looking at the grader's notes, it might be possible to get a 9.8. I'm not sure though. But even if it doesn't, that wouldn't bother me. Like I said, the grades aren't that big of an issue to me. I'm mostly collecting them just to have them slabbed. All right, so thanks for sticking out my little history lesson of the DC comics there. I really love, I'm like a nerd for the history, at least for DC comics. I'm not as well versed at the history of Marvel comics as I am DC, because like I've said many times before, I'm a DC fan first. So like I grew up watching those shows, and that kind of got me into the whole DC universe. But yeah, I love going into the history of DC comics. It's very interesting how it kind of, how Crisis on Infinite Earths affected DC and comics as a whole. But anyway, the next books that we have here were from a Whatnot purchase that I got from DRC Comics. And this one was interesting because I had a $10 credit. So when you have a credit on Whatnot, you only pay for the shipping. So I only paid for the shipping for these books. So these were like really cheap. And there were some really interesting books that I got. This first one is one that you've probably seen around before. It is ROM #1. I love this cover. I don't know much about ROM. Like I said, I'm not as big as into the Marvel comics as I am DC. I do know that I think most people who are X-Men fans know that the second appearance of Rogue is in ROM #31. That's not this one. This is #1. ROM issue 31 has the second appearance of Rogue. Um, so it's influential to Marvel Comics in that way. But this is the first appearance and origin of Rom. It's also the first appearance of the Prime Director, and the first team appearance of the Dire Wraiths and the Space Knights. So it's sort of like a Transformers ish concept, but not really. But it's because they're more, well, I guess it kind of is. It's kind of like a Transformers ripoff. I haven't read the series, but it's kind of like that. It feels like that. But I've seen these go for upwards of $20, and I got it for $5. It was $5 I won in the auction, and with $4.50 shipping, so I only paid $4.50 for it technically, because the credit I had paid for the $5. So I got this for like $4. That's a really great deal, and it's a newsstand, as you can see, and it looks pretty good. I'd have to open it up. It does have a couple color breaking spine ticks there, but other than that, it looks pretty good. So yeah, that's an interesting book. One that I've been looking for my collection for a while, just because I really like the cover. This next one is one that I really like as well, and another one that looks really good. This is Pit #1 from Image Comics. This one I won for $1, and then it had 66-cent shipping. So I actually only paid 66 cents for this one. And obviously, this is the first appearance of Pit. It's a pretty one, at least as far as indie comics covers go, it's one of the more recognizable ones, I think. Um, and to get it, for less than $1, I feel like it's a great deal. That's less than what it costed back in the day. As you can see, it was $1.95 cover price, so less than cover price. But like I said, this one looks really good. Um, I don't know if it's could be 9.8 potential. But it does look really good. I don't know. I could put it in a pre-screen maybe, and see what happens. I think that 9.8s for that only go for like 40 to $50. But I got it for 66 cents. So that's still a tremendous return on investment, even if it wasn't a 9.8 and I only got like $40 for it back or something like that. That's still way more than what I paid for it. So that'd be interesting. I'll see. I'll maybe see what I do with that one. But this next one is Warlock #15. Now this is an interesting one. It was $3 and free shipping, so I actually got it for free because the shipping was free, and the $10 credit I had paid for the $3. So this was a free book technically. And it's a newsstand, you can see there, and this is the first cover appearance of Gamora. You can see her right there down there at the corner there, and it's also a partial origin of Thanos. The first appearance of Margar, Lam Ilm Gore, Constable Trueheart and the Ancient Traveler, and also the first team appearance of the Ramalki, an alien race. I've never heard of them. But of course, everybody knows Gamora and Thanos. Also, you get a little Pip the Troll appearance there. I love Pip the Troll and Gamora's kind of friendship that they have. It's too bad that it seems like Marvel's not really doing anything with the Harry Styles and Pip the Troll thing, because Pip the Troll is an interesting character in the comics, and especially how he relates to Gamora. It'd be interesting to see him meet up with the new version of Gamora, because then they would feel more like they do in the comics. Um, I think that'd be pretty cool. And this is just a pretty cool cover. You got Thanos up there, you got Warlock front and center. And I also really love to see them kind of age up Warlock, mentally at least and emotionally, and get him to more like the Warlock from the comics. I didn't mind Will Poulter in the Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but it definitely wasn't the Warlock that we know from the comics. But yeah, that's an interesting book there that I got for free. Really good pickup. It's not in the best condition. You can see it's kind of if you look there, it's kind of the cover's kind of back a little bit. It doesn't look like it's detached, but I'd have to open it up and see. But yeah, for free, that's a cool book. And then this one was actually I won in a giveaway. You can see there on the sticky note. It's also a newsstand and a lot of newsstands. That's always nice. This one is Iron Man number 150. It is the Battle of Iron Man versus Doctor Doom, and it's considered an iconic cover art by John Romita Jr. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of John Romita Jr., especially more so nowadays. I think his art back in these days, like this looks good. But nowadays, man, John Romita Jr. is struggling. I am not a fan of his art. I refuse to read the Spider-Man comics, partly because of his art. The modern Spider-Man comics, it's just really not good. But this one is also not in the greatest condition. You can see up there, it's got a little water damage. It's got some scuffed up mess on there. It's got a lot of some spine color breaking spine ticks and scuffs and whatnot. But I won it in a giveaway for free, and it is a really cool cover. So I will keep that for my collection. So that's everything that I got in the very first mail call of the new year. I thought it was apropos to start off the new year with a number one, and that being Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is a pretty influential series in comic book history. And then we also got some pretty great number ones in ROM number one and Pit number one from the Whatnot haul as well. So let me know down in the comments if you picked up anything starting this new year off and what you thought of the books that I picked up today. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel for more comic book and pop culture talk, and I will see y'all another day.